Goeiedag, good day, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world.
I've been looking around for salvation. I've been looking around for the truth. All around me I see frustration, and I looked all over till I found you. I sit and listen to your stories, and you're telling me, please don't worry. There's a lot in this world you should know, and love in life is where you should go. If you're looking for somewhere to go, if you're looking for someone to know, if you're looking for someone to guide you, then love in life will guide you.
Goeienaand, good evening, fellow South Africans and citizens of the world, and welcome to tonight's live stream. And I speak to a lot of extraordinary men and women on Loving Life TV live streams. It is not often I get to have a fireside chat with the extraordinary man who has achieved so much in his life. I'm of course talking about Dr. Peter Munns. Tonight we will unpack his life, his major achievements, and the role he has played in moving South Africa forward. Peter is no stranger to Loving Life TV, but we have never before talked about his life, a subject that is long overdue. In 2021, Peter was added to the select few in the Loving Life family who are recognized as Loving Life TV heroes. And I'm going to get Dr. Peter Munns on now so we can get straight into this discussion. Here we go.
Hello, Scott. Good evening. Very well, thank you, Scott. Thank you for the invitation, Scott. Well, I was diagnosed with squamous cancer 4 years ago, but I never had the surgery. I was a little bit concerned about what the radiation and what the chemotherapy might have done, you know, Scott. So I braved it out with medication, you know, for pain. But I say, while I've got a pulse, I've got a purpose, you know. So as long as I wake up every morning, it's every day is a blessing. So, and lots of work. I'm too busy to get sick or die right now. Yes, that's it. Correct. It's an honor and a privilege, Scott. I had a father who was a tradesman, and my mother was the brains in the house, and she accumulated property, and unfortunately she passed away when I was 5 years old, and that devastated my father. But she was knocked down by a bus. She was 8 months pregnant, and she died one day after my birthday. I was 5 years old, 1955. So that was very traumatic for my father, and he always said by the time the lawyers and the banks had finished with him, he'd have nothing. And that was a true story. But very, very hardworking man. I had a sister 5 years older than myself, a brother who was 11 months older than me, and I had a younger brother 5 years old. My mother was 8 months pregnant, and my brother survived, but she passed away. She had septicemia at St. Augustine Hospital. But it was a lot of, it was a very, not a wealthy family. We had to work, but even then it inspired an entrepreneurial spirit in me. I used to fish every weekend in Durban Harbour, and from the age of about 9. So it was wonderful. It was character building from an early age. And then Glenwood, of course, I went to Sherwood Primary, and then I went to Glenwood High, and didn't really like school. And you don't actually need school these days. You've got Google, and you've got all the other social medias. So you don't have to know how long the longest river is or the highest mountain. You can just Google it in 2 seconds. So, but yeah, I found I had asthma as well, so I didn't play a lot of sport. I did high diving, and I played water polo. So that cured me of my asthma, and then I started diving at a fairly young age, 14. No, I was very competitive. I've always been A-driven. So I enjoyed games like golf, baseball, where it's one-on-one. And I think that's been a tremendous, the sports that I have played, Scott. Yes. Well, I got a fairly high certificate, NTC4, and it complemented my electrical, apprenticeship. And from there, I always believed I'd gone into the army at 18. So I became a course qualified major at 25. I had 16 years in the citizen force. And that was tremendous character building as well in an Afrikaans orientated army. But my mother was Engelbrecht, so I had an Afrikaans side of the family. So it certainly helped me. But that was a tremendous challenge, Scott. That I think drove me, because it made me realize that if you've got some leadership quality, then that can also be used effectively in our private or our business careers, So I went from there to Stewart's and Lloyd's in sales and marketing. Became a sales manager at 25. And then I went to Bestabel Engineering. I became marketing manager. And then I left in 1980, and I've been self-employed ever since. Yeah, well, I think that it was progressive. It was organic, because having built up a very, very big network, and that's always been, I think, the most important things in our lives are the people that we've met. I've got more than 10,000 telephone numbers on my phone today, and I've met every one of them. It's amazing. I mean, it's not bragging about it, but it's always, money doesn't make the world go round, Scott. People do, and we found that with Loving Life as well. It's a family, and you build those relationships, and those relationships carry you through your life. And it's proven to be, I don't know, my living testimony. So, yeah, it was absolutely fantastic to have an engineering business, because those engineers and buyers, when I opened up Fluid Systems and Engineering after leaving Bestable Engineering, Bell's Asbestos, international company, then it was great. It was absolutely fantastic because they supported me, and that gave me the opportunity to buy a house. Owner built our first house, a 3-bedroom home in Manzimtoti, and that was only 24,000. Build a 3-bedroom home, double garage, swimming pool. So that was when money was worth something, Scott. Well, I got married, I was earning 16 Rand a week, so we could always stretch a penny, you know. Amazing, eh? Oh, absolutely, Scott. Yeah, and some. Yes. Well, you know, I think that it's an ability to adapt, and I think that was where, you know, today I call myself a social entrepreneur. You know, you're doing work for the community, giving back. You know, I'm 73 now, and it's what we can give back to the community, what we can do, you know, for our fellow man, for humanity. And from there, it's been a journey, a fantastic journey of learning and discovery. And I mean, I lived in Hong Kong for 2 years. I lived in Portugal for 2 years. And it was all a tremendous a journey of trust, faith, and obedience. And yeah, absolutely amazing, you know, discovery and learning new things all the time, Scott.
Yeah, wow.
It's we never stop learning, you know, and this is an amazing thing. It's just you know, insatiable need for more information, for more knowledge.
Yeah. Now,
So it's been absolutely fantastic, Scott.
yeah, absolutely amazing. Now, look, you've always had topmost in your focus, I guess, is helping people around you. And in 1990, you established a small, medium, and micro enterprise sector, which was involved in community developments. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, my background was, you know, coming out of electrical and mechanical engineering background. I couldn't understand why people in the informal sector, and Warwick Avenue, you'll probably know it well. It's the Warwick Junction, the Warwick Triangle, and it's a very, very busy transport node in Durban. In fact, right next to the Durban Electricity Department. And, you know, more than 1 million people go through that Warwick Triangle every day. And then I used to see these people stealing supermarket trolleys, and so that they could trade. And I thought to myself, well, why hasn't anyone ever designed a mobile spaza, a vending cart that can become an effective point of sale? And then I also learned that a good idea becomes a great idea when you link it to big business.
Yeah.
So once I designed this, then the marketing manager for Toyota gave me a 16-seater taxi and gave me the keys and said, I'll see you in a year. Then I went to Macro. Then I went to Clover. I went to SA Breweries, and I went to Coca-Cola.
Wow.
And they bought into it.
Now,
that was it.
That was a product you called the mobile spaza, wasn't it?
Correct, Scott. Yeah, I took a patent on it, and then I started manufacturing vending units for corporate companies.
Yeah, fantastic. And that was used for transporting luggage, street taxi or bus rank businesses, transporting chilled or frozen perishables, and utilizing the insulation box as a storage unit.
That's it.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. And what I've actually got on the screen, just so you know, is actually some photos of the mobile spaza.
Thanks, good.
That's just
Thanks
sitting
very
up there,
much.
just showing how it actually works. Wow, that's amazing. All right, so
It was very effective, had its season, you know?
yeah, absolutely. And now this is the one that caught me. Was in 1999. You had the Leopard Kingdom Foundation, where you bought 5
Yes.
camels to Durban beachfront for the purpose of raising funds. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
What actually brought that on?
Well, I had a friend of mine who was in Strubens Valley in Gauteng, and a farmer friend of his, he was a lawyer, and he was breeding camels for the Middle East. And because the Muslims, they sacrifice camels and they give the meat to the poor once a year. But he had these trained camels for circuses and road shows. And so I brought 5 down. I put a shelter on the beach opposite Addington Hospital. And I was with the advice desk for abused women when I was at ML Sultan. And I brought 5 camels, and I made over 200,000 in 8 weeks on Durban's beachfront. Camel rides, happy snaps, kissing camels. Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I seem to remember that.
Yeah. It was right next to the aquarium, Scott, opposite the Edward Hotel, Beach Hotel.
Yeah. Wow. Amazing.
Tropicana Hotel.
Yeah.
No, Tropicana.
Okay. So look, after you'd done that, with the ML Sultan Technology Enterprise Center, you developed unique business ideas. Take us through that.
Yes. Well, I was appointed, Anshu Padiachi, shame, she's passed away now, but she was the principal of that. ML Sultan was always a very effective technicon, until Carter Asmal came along and amalgamated the technicons together. But then the Natal Technicon and ML Sultan became the Durban University of Technology. So they employed me on a 2-year contract to bring in these entrepreneurial ideas, to combine, the academia, the academics,
Mm-hmm.
and the various, the different arts, culture, mechanical engineering, and the different dispensations. And they employed me as the director, the first director of the Technology Enterprise Centre. And that gave me a trip to England, Ireland, Wales, and Scotland. It was a whistle-stop tour. And there were 3 other directors in Cape Town, Northern Province, and Eastern Cape. So it was absolutely fantastic, a great experience, Scott.
I bet.
And working with universities, working with banks, working with the private sector,
Yeah.
Working with government, and it was just incredible how they had, I think the most interesting one, technology park or technology enterprise centers, was what was called an ICE center in Dublin, and innovation, creativity, and enterprise. And I thought, oh, well, with a background in doing all these entrepreneurial things in Durban, I thought this government, they would buy into this wholesale. But how wrong I could be. They had no intention of developing the small, medium, and micro enterprise sector. They wanted to destroy the economy. They wanted to keep these people in paved. In other words, keep them on the pavements forever, not financing them. And they had National Youth Development Agency. They had small enterprise development agencies funded at great cost, billions of rand, taxpayers' money. And they were a total failure because they never put the right people into those positions, and they never had the right mentors.
Yeah.
So, but it was an incredible learning curve, Scott, because whatever the government was telling us, that was not what they wanted. It was not what they wanted, for the country, for the economy.
Right. What we're talking about here, of course, is the corrupt ANC government.
Oh, 100%, Scott.
Yeah.
100%. Corruption is ballistic.
Yeah.
I mean,
It's
they've lost, wasted, or stolen more than 3 trillion rand in less than 10 years.
a criminal enterprise.
And, well, you know, they've got their day of judgment coming.
Yeah.
That's coming.
Now,
They're not going to get away with it, Scott.
from 2005, you moved into a company called Hollow Matrix, where you were the project director. Well, what was that all about?
Well, it was on project development. These were the vehicles now are actually are being tagged. You know, they've got RFIDs and you've got microdots. So a lot of the vehicles now, because of the high theft in South Africa and losing a lot of vehicles over the borders, then I actually went to Ireland and I went to Czechoslovakia to actually get the technology and to help set the company up.
Fantastic.
But that was also a tremendous learning curve because, you know, the microdots have developed to an incredible level now. We've even seen it with graphene oxide and we've seen it with these, you know what, the jabs. So,
The bioweapon,
yeah.
as I call it. Now,
That's it.
Peter, 15 years ago in 2008, your faith really took hold, and you set up the Christian Coalition of South Africa. And
1996, Scott.
oh, okay, but
No worries.
okay. So tell us about that. Tell us about the Christian Coalition.
Well, I worked with Lynn Conway and Jack Stegman in 1996 and a brother without blood, Mike Randall.
Yeah.
And a couple of us got together. And, you know, in 1996, there were more than 75,865 churches. And we said, even in those days, back in them days, we said the church is not feeding the poor. Matthew 25, 35, 40. And that is perpetuated. So we needed to unite the church. We needed to build his kingdom church. We needed to, I think we were looking for a peaceful solution, having come out of the military, having gone on to the borders and also worn a uniform for 16 years. What happened was that the government, especially Thabo Mbeki, opened the borders and they established 550 squatter camps in KwaZulu-Natal, 900 in Gauteng, 700 in Cape Town, PE, and East London. So I knew that if you did not feed the poor, you would have a crisis on your hands.
Yeah.
And we saw what happened in July of 2021 with the Free Zuma campaign. That is the communist hammer, Scott.
Yeah.
That's what this ANC government has done. They've kept the people poor, ignorant, and dependent upon them. But the poor and the gullible and the desperate don't know that it's taxpayers' money. It's not their money. The ANC has got no money. These are public servants.
Yeah.
And so I think from 1996, Jack Stegman and Lynn Conway actually established the ACDP, the African Christian Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And put it on a plate for Kenneth Mishu. But once again, it became African Christian Democratic movement and party. And they haven't. The church has not done much for the poor or homeless shelters. Every church should have a poverty ministry, Scott.
Well,
But the money is being vacuumed up
Yeah.
in the areas, alcohol, drugs. This government has exploited our weaknesses, gambling, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, big pharma. And that's what they've done. They've used the Saul Alinsky 8 levels of control. They've controlled the debt, they've controlled education, they've controlled poverty, and they've increased the debt, and they've increased the poverty.
Yeah.
And that was a great revelation, I think. So 1996, that was the background. But then in 2004, that was when the Durban City Council actually closed down a 900-bed shelter.
Yeah.
They desecrated a place of Christian worship, and they stole 10.865 million in grant funding.
Yeah, Peter, we'll get
And
to
that killed.
we'll get to that a little bit later. I just want to say to people watching that if you want to see some of the amazing stuff that Peter's been involved in, you'll see there's a link below this video to the Loving Life TV forum. And there are close to 20 PDFs in there which cover a whole range of things that Peter has been involved in. And it's quite, we'll be going through them just now, but they're quite extraordinary. Now, getting to your achievements, Peter, between 1990 and 2013, you wrote 5 books. And these included The Final Protocol, The Truth About South Africa, The Biblical Blueprint for God and Government, The 10 Commandments of Charity and Welfare, and the Dorothea Gold. And then more recently you wrote and published the first book entitled Focus on the Future, Informal and Small Business Development, a Practical Guide. Do you want to tell us how your thirst for writing started?
Well, you know, I've always been an avid reader, and I've been gifted with the use of the English language. And that came out of reading Louis L'Amour and Wilbur Smith books right back in them days, you know. Mm-hmm. And but it was good, you know. Everything, I think, as it was only after I left school that I matured, and I just used to love reading, you know, books and more books, and then I realized that, you know, something more could be done through the knowledge, and by doing something a little bit more, let's say, innovative. So, yeah, the first book that I wrote, The Final Protocol, The Truth About South Africa, I wrote in 1990.
Wow.
And that was after I came, excuse me, after I came out of the army, where Pik Botha and F.W. de Klerk turn around and say that communism was dead and it died at the Berlin Wall in November of 1989. And then I said, these are traitors. These are traitors that sold us down the river. And I said, you're telling me that we were defending the borders and communism is dead. It's alive and it's well. And the World Economic Forum and the New World Order, they have used Communist Manifesto that was published in 1848. And that's how they've taken over African countries. And the Saul Alinsky 8 rules for radicals and levels of control. Yeah. So, and then I wrote, then after I'd finished that, I got my dissertation. I got a doctorate in theology. And that was when my life changed. That was when I realized after the Ark had been closed down, 2008, I got my doctorate in theology. And then I wrote the 10 Commandments of Charity and Welfare. That was my dissertation.
Yeah.
And it was all about feeding the poor.
Yeah.
So that was really on my heart, you know, feeling sorry, having compassion, having empathy for other people less fortunate than ourselves. And that was where it kept on coming back. You've got to feed the poor. You've got to do something more for the homeless. And you've got to do something more for the destitute. And that was the calling at the church. I mean, I've eaten a lot of goat meat between Nongoma and Transkei, and I've gone through all the churches, the Indians, the coloreds, the whites, the African churches, spent a lot of time there, and that's how I actually got to meet the king as well. So it was networking all the time, Scott.
Yeah.
Within and in the private sector, within the business chambers, and also with in the public sector.
Yeah. Isn't it,
in the business chambers, working with the municipalities. Yeah.
Isn't it shocking how foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and Open Society, who claim to be philanthropists, have literally billions of dollars floating around in investments and stuff like that, which could be used to help starving babies and children and, You know, it's
Absolutely, Scott.
it's just
They
crazy.
don't pay tax on it, but they pull it in, they use that money for ill-gotten gains.
Yeah, and also
Yeah.
big noting themselves.
100%, Scott. Yeah,
Now-
it's really sad.
Okay, moving on from the
It's-
books, you have, I believe, you
Yes.
have a fishing record for
But
kingfish.
I was spearfishing it. Yeah, that's in fact motivated the writing of the third book, which was the Dorothea Gold. In February, 18th of February, in 1980, I was at Cape Bardel. Used to spend a lot of time spearfishing, crayfishing, and I speared the South African record kingfish at Cape Bardel, 50
Wow.
kilograms. And at the same time, I found the porthole from a ship, and I did my research as I do,
Yeah.
and I found out that that was from the wreck of the Dorothea that carried the, not to be confused with the Kruger Millions, but that was carrying the war chest for the Boers, 1898.
Did
And
they
the
find any
Dorothea
gold
was
there?
wrecked. 3.5 tons of gold was on their manifest, and they had briefcases with diamonds, and that was going to Germany. That was going to fund the Boers. That was going to fund their war effort in the Anglo-Boer War. So yeah, you know, and then I wrote a book called The Dorothea Gold. It was a fictional novel, but based on an historical event.
Yeah.
That was going to be a retirement plan. So I haven't published that, but I've written it. So I did the summary, and then I also got the salvage rights for it.
Wow.
So
Did you find
yeah,
the gold? Did you find the
no,
gold?
Scott, you know, I found the porthole, which was but our coastline is very angry.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like the Aegean or it's not like the Mediterranean. So it's quite a rough sea. And, you know, it could be under 100 foot of sand by now. I mean, in 1898, that's a long time ago. But it was interesting, you know, it was an interesting research project as well, because it covered South African history and it covered a lot of interesting things, you know. So, and I think that's what I found quite exciting. And,
I love
you know,
history.
oh, Scott, it's amazing.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, look,
I've become an historian. Yeah.
So the elephant in the room here is that there's 3.5 tons of gold somewhere near where you actually came across the Dorothea gold.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott.
What actually sunk it? Why did it sink?
It hit. It used to carry acid and railway lines, and it was an old bark. It was an old. It was an old vessel, and it left. It went out of. It went out of Mozambique Harbor.
Lorenzo Marx.
And when it came down our eastern coast, a cyclone hit it in 1898, and that's what sunk it. The ship broke in two. So it was, as I say, an exciting time to get the salvage rights, to write the book, and it was just a nice adventure, you know.
Do you still have the salvage rights?
No, this, with the new government, if you don't take it up, somebody else takes it up.
Yeah.
But I registered the Atlantis Salvage Company, and I had everything lined up: salvage experts, magnetometers, side profile scanners, and had a dive team. We even had an archaeologist ready to go with us.
Wow.
But I couldn't raise the salvage money. We needed 10 million rand, and no one was prepared to go out on a punt with that one, you know.
That's
crazy. That was when I was fit. We were ready to do it, and it was exciting, and had all the diving contacts, all the salvage experts, and a very good friend of mine, Graham Charter. He was the chairman of the National Sharks Board. So he helped me with my research on the Dorothea. So yeah, it was absolutely a wonderful journey, Scott.
Just for those
But
listening,
as you get older, yeah,
just for those listening, an ounce of gold is 30,000. Sorry, it's 30,000.
$2,000.
It's 30,000 rand today.
It's closer to 40.
Sorry, close to 40,000 rand, which means that a kilo of gold is 1.2 million rand. Okay, 1.2 million rand. Now multiply that by 3.5 tons. We're talking billions of rands. This is huge.
3,600 kilograms. Yeah, wow. And it's 2.2 pounds per kilogram.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. Now, okay, let's move on from the Dorothea Gold. You played underwater hockey and spearfished for Natal between 1980 and 1985. What is underwater hockey?
Yeah. Well, that was actually developed in Australia because here in South Africa, our best diving is actually in winter. You know, you get the sardine shoals and the water's generally clean because you don't get a lot of rain.
Yeah.
Your rain normally comes in the summer months, you know, January, December.
Right.
So we used to play underwater hockey in summer. That used to keep us fit. It was six people in a team. And you've got a little stainless steel gong and you've got an umpire.
Yeah.
And then you've got a polystyrene or high-density polyethylene puck. And it's just like an ice hockey puck. And it's on the bottom of the pool. And the water's 12, 15 foot deep. And then the umpire drops the puck. And then he rings the gong. And then the people take off from the side. And then you have to score a goal on the opposite side. with the puck using a miniature hockey stick. Yeah, so it's a great test.
Do you use snorkel or do you just not have anything when you go under?
Snorkel. Goggles, flippers, and snorkel. Yeah,
that's
and
amazing.
It keeps us very, very fit for the winter months.
I bet. Now,
yeah, it was great.
You're also the committee member at Umkomaas and St Michael's on Sea Golf Club between 1984 and 87. And the founder member of the Southern Region Nomads Golf Outreach.
Yeah, I started I opened up a seafood wholesale business. I was selling between 2 and 6 ton of fish.
Wow.
Every day. I had 14 ski boats supplying me. So I used to supply all the hotels with crayfish, prawns, langoustine, fresh line fish. And it gave me time. I took my retirement in stages. So I played a lot of golf and I did some diving and I had a boat as well. So I used to do some diving. So, yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. You know, as I say, that was just before I went to Hong Kong.
You know, this is the one that caught my attention, I got to say. You were nominated as Durban's Star Citizen by the Mayor of Durban for work achieved in the informal sector in 1997. And the informal sector, we're talking about the poor sector.
Correct. The poorest of the poor. Yeah.
So for over 30 years, you've been basically, well over 30 years, you've been basically helping people who've been in distress.
Yeah. Yeah. Even the book Focus on the Future was how to develop a business from a business idea.
Yeah.
You know, and turn it into a viable business.
Yeah. A
viable, sustainable enterprise, you know, and that would be good for public servants. That would be good to running a public department, a public sector department, running a municipality, as long as you don't take the profit home at the end of the month.
Yeah. And
everything.
I guess this, because in 1991, you created thousands of jobs with the help of Coca-Cola through the vending units and established the first 10-day audio-visual training course. And that Hawker's piece that you designed was obviously thanks to your engineering experience.
Yeah, that went with it, Scott. Yeah. And then, if you can make money at 3 levels, then you've got a chance of making a sustainable business. So I was manufacturing vending carts.
Yeah.
I was also, Coca-Cola gave me 3 ice machines and established I established an operation at the city garage behind the Lonsdale Hotel. And I had 75 vending carts and 3 ice machines they gave me. So we were employing people, and we were selling product, and I was manufacturing vending carts. And then I started packaging rice, samp, and sugar beans and selling that through 4 containers in Warwick Avenue. My son helped me with that, and my son ran that business. We worked it together, and we sold 100,000 tons of rice, samp, and sugar beans over a 3-year period.
Wow, that's amazing.
So that's what they should be doing. That's what this government should be doing.
Yeah.
That's what the farmers should be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, today they've even got VAT on staple diet food products.
That's crazy.
Even like sugar. No, of course it's crazy.
That's
but they want
crazy.
to tax you at every level.
Yeah.
Not just petrol, but everything else, Scott.
No.
So it's insatiable need for greed. Yeah.
At this particular time, you're obviously in a very sort of creative stage of your life. You initiated the car wash, car guard concept in Durban. So where you've got car guards in Johannesburg or Krugersdorp or Cape Town or wherever, you were the guy who initiated it.
Sub-Saharan Africa.
Yeah.
Yeah, so love me or hate me for them. But that started at Joe Cool's on Durban's beachfront. I had 2 people from the Ark come to me the one day, and they said, "You've got no more cards, Peter. What can we do?" And my son used to spend some time at Joe Cool's. And he said, "Hey, Dad, they're stealing, and they're stealing cars and breaking into cars and all that." So that came to me, just from a security background as well.
Yeah.
So when I had these guys from the Ark come to me, and they were desperate, they needed to make some money. So I said to them, "Do me a favor, take 2 sticks and go down to Joe Cool's and guard cars and ask those people for a tip." That's how it started, Scott.
Wow.
December of 1993. But it was one thing after another, because it was in the informal sector. It was like I was built for the kill. It was, all the training and all the learning and everything. It seemed to be totally focused on providing employment opportunities, providing job opportunities, business opportunities. So, that was where it inspired me, it encouraged me, and motivated me.
A win-win situation. I remember in
For everyone.
2007, I went to Bloemfontein. I was actually launching my book, Children of the Mist. And I was actually in the very historic road where you've got the state president's house, and you've got the Bloemfontein municipality, and you've got just on the side road the first parliament, which was the Boer parliament. It's a thatch roof house, and beautifully maintained still. But I parked my car in that street, and this elderly white lady came up to me and said, "I'm a car guard. Can I look after your car?" And I said, "Sure." And I just, my heart went out to her, because this is obviously a woman who probably had a job, but because of BEE and her age, was now basically living on an income by being a car guard. Just shocking.
Oh, it is, Scott. It's very sad, eh?
Yeah. Now, okay, so in 1998, now this is a curveball to me. You patented a shampoo conditioner in solid bar form. Where did that idea come from?
It came from a shower. I was having a shower and I ran out of liquid shampoo. And then I used a bar of velvet, fragrance, and I used that. And I mean, you can see today I don't have too many feathers on my head, but I used this, and I thought to myself, now, why hasn't anyone put a shampoo and a conditioner in a solid bar? So I patented it.
Wow.
And then I opened up, and I got through all the Pick and Pays, Hyperamas, OKs, and I sold my shares and I moved on.
Wow, you've really been involved in just about everything.
No, people, my family jokes with me and says, my CV looks like a Dead Sea Scrolls. So.
Well, talking about the Dead Sea Scroll, in 1996 you introduced the gold permit system in Zimbabwe with their Minister of Mines. Now, that is post Ian Smith. That must have been under Mugabe.
Yeah, well, it was Dr. Mombishora. I met Ian Smith. I had lunch with him.
Yeah.
I was staying with some friends in Harare, and I had a friend who had mining claims at Isbazeni, 26 k's out on the Mike Bridge Road, opposite Chipangali, the bird park. And they had the Ngubu mine. Ngubu means blanket in Ndebele.
Right.
And they were getting 75 ounces per ton alluvial. Wow. That was how rich, 75 ounces.
That's amazing.
It's unheard of.
Wow.
So I thought to myself, no, let me go and see this character. And I said to him, a lot of your gold from Zimbabwe is finishing up at Santon in jewelry shops. And you've got all the guys buying the gold because you melt it down and you make jewelry. That's how they made it.
Yeah.
But a lot of the gold from that country was going through the back door over Bite Bridge. So I went to see Dr. Mombishora. And I said to him, here's the deal. Give me the first permits. I will buy the gold from these people, and I won't ask them who they are. No questions asked. But then I'll pay them on LME price of gold on the day, obviously with our profit built in,
yeah,
and our risk factors. And then we had to sell it to standard printers. So I sold some of those licenses, and I kept two for myself. And I started to trade with these panners, with these prospectors in that Esbazeni area. And it was absolutely fantastic. I mean, we did quite well.
Yeah.
But here's the curveball. These people, we're trying to save the money. We're trying to save their natural capital, the water, the soil, the fauna and the flora, and the national heritage. We're trying to help them, the government, Mugabe's government.
Yeah.
And what happened? These guys, if we weighed it, and I mean, we did a SG test. You do it with water, Archimedes principle, to test it, and that you can test the purity and everything else. So we paying LME prices on that day, the day of purchase. We only got our money 6 weeks later. So the price of gold could take a slide, go into free fall, and we have to carry the risk. And then we also said, right, it's 90% pure. These guys said, no, it's 85% pure. So now we must haggle like it's some bazaar. So I said, no, that's not for me. And I came back to South Africa.
Yeah.
But another interesting, it was a learning curve.
Yeah.
It was a learning curve, Scott. And I've always meant to be in KwaZulu-Natal. I know that. Wherever I've traveled, every time I've traveled. So God slapped my wrist and put me in the naughty corner.
Well, I don't know how you achieved everything that you did. I mean, for example, for 20 years, from 1987, you served on the fundraising and executive committee of the South African Legion, which managed the needs of the military ex-servicemen, widows, and orphans. That is. So, what was your role there?
Well, I was on the board of trustees, and that's still going, but if you have a look at Sappers is pretty much dried up. The moths as well, people have moved on to higher pastures, and they've either left the country, and but sappers, the country needs sappers. Sappers are your combat engineers. They build hospitals and schools and all that, like the Cape Corps of 1781. Those are the people that we need. Build harbors and railways and universities and clinics and hospitals, That's what we need. We don't have technical people anymore. We don't have engineers. There's been a mass skills brain drain
Exodus.
ever since they came up with this triple B, double E, affirmative action, land reforms, and unemployment bills. These are stupid, silly people.
Okay,
Stupid.
can I just say, in my view, the only people
Sure.
who've benefited from triple B, double E are the ANC
Elite.
cadres. That's the only people.
Yeah.
Every other African in South Africa has been a victim of triple B, double E.
Absolutely, Scott. It takes away their dignity.
Yeah.
And they've just turned it into cadre deployment. It's been a money-making racket for these people.
Absolutely.
But as I said, the day is coming, Scott.
Yeah, it is.
It's coming.
Now, at the age of 25, while you were at the SADF, it was then called the South African Defence Force, you achieved the top rank of Major. I mean, that's pretty good at the age of 25.
7 years. I went through every rank: Lance Corporal, Sergeant, Staff Sergeant, Second Lieutenant, Lieutenant, Captain, Major. 7 ranks, 7 years.
So what was the secret to your success?
Scott, I don't know. I don't know. I think that it's about respect. It's about discipline. I think that, you've got those levels. You've got those leadership levels. And, they're either in you or they're not in you. It's just incredible. And leadership to me is empathy, having empathy for other people.
Yeah.
Openness to noble ideas, acknowledging other people's achievements, having respect. Respect is top of the range.
Yeah.
And then avoidance of emotional outbursts. You find a lot of very immature people. They don't have the EQ. They don't have the maturity. And then also investing in your team. Together everyone achieves more.
Yeah.
Invest in your people, with skills, teach them. And then also carry your authority with visibility, transparency, and responsibility. There's got to be accountability. There's got to be consequences, and that's what is lacking.
I've got a job for you.
Yep.
I've got a job for you.
Thanks,
Peter. And that is, I want you to go into Ramaphosa's ministry and teach them some of those basic skills.
Oh, no, we're going to teach them a few lessons, Scott. I promise you that. On my watch. It's coming.
Okay, now, you're also involved with the CSIR and Department of Arts, Culture, Science and Technology to find solutions and alternatives to the importation of glass beads. And you had a huge amount of glass beads, if I recall, in a container during that time in July 2021, which was one of the containers, which is broken into. And tell us about the glass beads and what happened to your facility with all those glass beads.
Scott, I lost 7.7 million rand in Toti storage on the 12th, between the 12th and the 14th of July 2021. Now, I'm also handling a multi-plaintiff, call it a class action, against the government, okay? There's 376 storage units in the Manzim Toti that were destroyed in 3 days. Totally. Now, what happened is that this government was busy mobilizing SADF and training them in the Eastern Cape at Matatiele from July 2019 to mobilize them for SADC countries and the DRC. Now, I found that out. But there's a class action coming against this government because they never mobilized the SADF or the SAPS or even the Metro Police to protect the economy, to protect people's property and lives. 350 lives were lost in July, those 8 days of killing in that Free Zuma campaign. So the whole focus now is putting together a justice system where there's a hammer of judgment. There's going to be a sword of justice for these people, Scott. That's not just for the Ark, that's also going to be for the Toti storage. 70 billion rand in damage, 350 lives were lost. and this government didn't give a rat's. It didn't care a fig for the people's lives or their property or the economy. This government does not protect, it doesn't defend, and it doesn't contend. It does nothing except steal and destroy. That's what it's done. So there has to be a hammer of judgment, and that's what we're working on. And that's what we have done. That's why the ARC case was fantastic, because I learned that the justice system is corrupt, it's compromised, and is centrally controlled.
Yeah. Well,
we have a system now. Yeah.
We'll get to the ARC very shortly.
Yeah.
But I just want to go through your achievements first. And you also established a community newspaper while the Director of Technology Enterprise Centre at the Durban University of Technology, the Isibani News.
Isibani.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Well, you know, one of the responsibilities as the director of the Durban University of Technology was to link. We had seed funding. It was a European Union funded enterprise or project. And you had to find people, students who had some ability. And then we would do an analysis. We do a SWOT analysis on their business idea. And then we would get it financed, and we would then get the right role players in place and put them on the road, you know, so they could, while they were studying whatever it was that they were studying at the time, was to create a business opportunity for themselves and then get the support. So there was an incubator. So it was the first of its kind.
Yeah.
In KwaZulu-Natal, and it was a privilege and an honor to be able to have been part of that process. But it worked. It was successful. Yeah. And we started quite a few people. And one of the people, James Nkosi, he came to me and he said, he's got this idea about a community paper. Can I help him? And I said, yeah. So I got a contract once again. A good idea becomes a great idea when you link it to big business. So the distribution of that was through the taxi ranks, and then I tied up a contract with the post offices. So I did all the drops of this Isibani newspaper into post boxes. It was a great hit. The distribution was good, and Durban Daily News, independent newspapers, they did the printing for us.
Okay.
So it was good. Yeah.
And
it was great.
This is again just a curveball to me, because I would never have thought you would have been involved in this sort of thing, and that is you were managing director and chairman on the committee of the KwaZulu-Natal Tourism Training Centre between 2000 and 2005. How did that come about?
Well, I think it was also through networking, you know, and people. I've also found, Scott, you know, people. They might have very good ideas, but they're not operational, and they lack experience in marketing and sales. So I think with my background, with the fantastic experience that I had at Stewart's and Lloyd's and Vesterwell, it stood me in very good stead. You know, it gave me a solid corporate background. It taught me a hell of a lot. And I could pass on that knowledge, you know. That's what I found satisfying. It's never been about money. I've never thought with my pocket, and you know, I think that God has been fantastic. You know, that God has provided. I've got two very successful children as well. So
fantastic.
You know, this has been a ministry, Scott.
Yeah.
You know, nothing else. You can't call it anything else. It's a clarion call to God's service, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. Now that brings me to Ark Christian Ministries Church, where you were the chairman. You were appointed in 2005. I'm going to just put up an image. I'm going to share it with you too, Peter, so that we can just. Hang on, let me just get that up.
So the courthouse.
No, this is actually help build the Ark.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll just expand the size so people can read it. Okay, so
Yes.
tell us about how you came up with the Ark of Compassion.
Well, the Ark Christian Ministries Church, Scott, was the entity that had been established in 1986 at the request and behest of the Durban City Council. They had a lot of vagrants, they had a lot of homeless people on Durban's beachfront. And you had a very good visionary mayor and a very good city council. And they said to Pastor Derek Donation, will you establish your church, the Ark Christian Ministries Church, on Durban's beachfront? And he said, yes, it'll be a pleasure. Because you've got drug lords, you've got prostitutes, you've got a lot of seamen who it's a harbor, it's a beachfront area, and also the weather that we have in July. I mean, we've got amazing weather. So people can't handle the Free State and Transvaal weather during winter, so they migrate. And Derek saw that, and he established a 900-bed shelter between 1996 and 1986. And then he was approached in 1999 by the Durban City Council, and they said, will you know, we want to establish a commercial and residential upgrade on Durban's beachfront. They had Malaysian investors, Rock Point and Ranong, Malaysian investors, and the Durban City Council said, you know, will you do an accreditation test? And he said, yeah, be an absolute pleasure. And then they said they'd give them 10.865 million to relocate. So those functions, that's what that Ark did. The first thing that I did after the Tequeni municipality betrayed them and closed it down, they evicted them. They evicted 1,000 people onto the streets on the 17th of May. So then I knew, and that's when I also went to all the churches in KZN, and I said, can you help? I couldn't find a Christian lawyer or advocate to take on this matter. And I developed all the supporting documents. I prepared all the documents myself. And then I went to court on the 20th. It killed Derek Donation. He died of a broken heart, a broken spirit. He felt that he let these people down. And then the trustees came to me in June 2005 and asked me to take over the chairmanship of the Ark. And I said, well, I'm not it's not my calling. It's, I've never run a church before. And they said, no, but we want you to take it over. And I did. And that was a commitment to them. And so they established a three entity. The plaintiff was the Ark Christian Ministries Church. Then the government said, if you're going to receive public money, you must establish a non-profit organization. But they'd already had the numbers as a non-profit, fundraising and everything else. So they established the Durban Ark concept, and it remained a Durban Ark concept. Instead of after the accreditation, April 2001, they should have paid that money after the accreditation into the Ark, 10.865 million. But they didn't. They stole the money. They stuck it into a Metro housing account. And they stole the money. And then they got an eviction notice. So they had no intention.
Was this an ANC municipality?
100%, SACP, Mike Sutcliffe. And that's when I knew that the entire justice system was corrupt, compromised, and centrally controlled. I went to court on the 25th of November, 2019, only with my Bible. But I had 200 people, mainly Africans, people who had been kicked out of the Ark when they were 13 and 16 years old. And they were in Cater Manor Clinic. They'd been dumped there for more than 10 years. And they came with me to court. And I said I would never give up on this. And I haven't.
Wow.
It was taken off the roll, but it's still unfinished business. But we're going to do it in our court. We're going to do it in the Aboriginal law. We're going to use the law of the land, not the law of the sea, maritime and admiralty law. That's why I linked with the Khoisan, Scott. That's why I went to the Zulus first.
Yeah.
I met with Zwelithini, and then God showed me the way to the First Nation people. We need Aboriginal law, the law of the land, communal law, community law, perfect divine law. And then these people have got no defense against that, Scott.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Just for people watching this PDF that I'm showing right now is available at the link below this video. You can actually download this document, which goes for pages and pages and pages, but details the corruption of the eThekwini municipality.
It's not even a corruption, Scott. It's a crime against humanity.
Yeah. Now, Peter, can I ask you to move your camera down a little bit? There we go. That's better. I was sorry. I was losing you. Okay. So I just want to, while we're just talking about the Ark, I just want to show this document. Where is it? Oh, that's right. It's just the one that I showed earlier. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's just get back to your achievements, and we'll get to the PDFs, which we'll wrap up with. Okay. So. You served on the committee for the Holy National Bible College that has a college base of more than 100 Bible colleges that support the education and training needs of more than 1,800 church leaders in the network of more than 1,000 mainly poor rural churches and a congregational membership base of more than 1.5 million people. Tell us about that operation.
Oh, Scott, that was that was where I said, I've eaten a lot of goat meat between Nongoma and Transkei. Right. Pastor Johannes, Professor Dr. He started the Holy Nation Bible College, and I assisted them, with this. Also helping the church leaders, help their churches. We even repaired some of the houses. A lot of the pastors, they're very poor, and also because we were packaging staple diet food products, we wanted to establish a distribution network so we could get the food, directly to the churches, and that's why we established the Solomon Project, 5 billion rand, 5-year project to feed the poor. Right. In 550 squatter camps in KZN. So the whole learning with the Holy Nation Bible College was the foundation laid for the Solomon Project, which I developed. I developed that in 2012. And I offered that to 4 premiers, Scott. 4 premiers. They wouldn't even look at it. Wow. To relieve the poverty.
That's just...
So they had no intention. But Scott, it's just validated the work which I've done.
Yeah.
That is why it's been so self-satisfying. It's been satisfying knowing that we were on track. Yeah. We needed to have that museum of truth and that library of evidence. This is it. Yeah. And this is why this talk tonight, I really appreciate the invitation, and it's great sharing it with people because, hoping to inspire and encourage other people, especially the church ministers. They must get their poverty ministries going. They must do more. Yeah. Corporate sector, business chambers, they must do it. They must get involved. The lottery, look at the corruption in the lottery. Shocking. Cadre deployment. Look at the money stolen when they could do so much. And they have to get rid of these squatter camps, Scott. Yeah. They have to. We saw what happened with the Free Zuma campaign. That was a warning. Yeah. That's the communist hammer.
Well, we'll get to the Free Zuma campaign shortly, but you received your honorary doctorate in theology in 2008 from the University of Australia. Why
Yes,
why Australia? That's interesting because you're in South Africa, but you got the doctorate in Australia. Did you have contact with people in Australia?
well, that was through the Holy Nation Bible College as well.
Ah,
But
right.
I was ordained in front of over 1,000 people at Peter Maritzburg City Hall in November of 2008.
Oh.
So that was with Johannes Norby.
Yeah. Now that same year
So
in 2008, you
yeah,
became president of the South Coast Chamber of Commerce and Industry and
correct.
served as on the executive committee. And
Yeah.
I think you're still in that position, aren't you? This is after 15 years.
Yes. Yeah. It was registered in 2012.
Yeah.
Because it was only run as an association when I joined the chamber in 2008. But in 2012, I became chairman and president of that chamber.
Wow.
But the business chambers have become politicized, Scott.
Yeah.
They're politically controlled.
I'm not surprised. And then you
So
became founding.
we want no part of it.
Yeah.
So we won't compromise ourselves, and we don't offer backhanders to these public servants.
Yeah, good. You then became founding chairman of the Provincial KwaZulu-Natal Treasury Financial Literacy Association Initiative. And
Yeah, how's that for some apples? That was in the Lion's Den.
Wow.
Yeah, that was in 2012. Yeah, the Office of the Premier is William Kesey, the same one.
Oh, no,
He
not
appointed me, yeah, and Ina Cronje. She was the MEC for Finance for KZN.
Yeah.
They appointed me as chairman of the Financial Literacy Association. We went round to all the schools. We had out of school, in school, women, disabled people, and also the MME sector, the informal sector. So I didn't get, there was no time, and that was also working with the banks. The banks bought in as well. You can imagine the attraction. I mean, Nedbank,
Yeah.
ABSA, First National, they all want the treasury account. So they bought into this. But it was also a non-paying job. I worked there for 2 years.
Wow.
And that's when I also presented the Solomon Project. So I thought that these doors would open and that these people who obviously didn't have a moral compass or a conscience, they would do more for the poor. But no, they didn't. They didn't do anything.
It's all just self-interest.
So, yeah, absolutely, Scott. It was all about cadre deployment, and
Yeah.
it was all about self-interest and lust for power and control,
Now, in 2011, you were the finalist in the SQUAB, not Schwab, as in World Economic Forum, but the SCWAB Foundation, as the social entrepreneur for South Africa.
Correct. Yeah, that was because of the work which I'd done, Rent a Car, my CV. They basically went on my CV, and then out of there were a lot of people that competed, or quite a few of the contestants, and I was a finalist in the top 3. Yeah,
that's fantastic. And
it's just milestones.
Yeah, you're presently the director on the board of the South African Teen Entrepreneur Foundation. How long has that been going on?
Oh, Scott, it's also something that came and went, A lot of these teen entrepreneur and BizNews, and it was networking with people who had a similar, like-minded attitude towards developing, the informal and the SMME sector. So I tended to gravitate towards those people. So it was, exceptional, meeting the right people, but without getting funding, Scott. This is the biggest travesty. As I say, you look at the gambling things that vacuum trillions of rands out of the communities, and the churches should be doing a lot more. The business chambers, captains of industry, mind leaders in commerce. They should be doing far more for stimulating the economy, building the economy, protecting it, and developing a vibrant economy. But it's a non-starter.
You know the
and
craziest.
it's really,
The craziest thing I ever saw was when I went to Durban in 2007, and I went to the casino, which is near the beach, and walked into where all the pokie machines are, or the where you press the buttons and you put some money in, and there were literally Africans lining up in queues waiting for their turn to lose their money. I mean, it was the craziest thing. The queues were 3 or 4 deep of people waiting to throw their money down the machine and lose their money. It was crazy.
They've got disposable income now, and it's wasted.
Yeah. Now,
absolutely wasted, Scott.
Let's move on to the Solomon Project, because you've referred to it a few times. And that was a roadmap and guide to sustainable economic growth and development, while also providing practical and sustainable solutions to food security, poverty relief, and unemployment, crime, poor health, and education, and the keys to a meaningful change in the SMME sector. That this was finalized in 2011. Now, this obviously was one of your major projects. Tell us a bit more about that.
Well, Scott, it was an accumulation of all the things which I'd done, and felt qualified. And that in 2019, on the 27th of August, 2019, there was a KZN Growth Coalition meeting with the Office of the Premier. And there were 250 people from captains of industry, banks, and the public sector as well. And that was at Coastlands in Umhlanga Rocks. And Zita Zikalala, he was the premier at the time. He identified those projects for funding. He identified those, exactly what I'd done over all these years: job creation, poverty relief, food security, all the rest of it. And he identified it, but not one of those banks would fund it. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Even couldn't get finance from the Office of the Premier for this.
That's crazy.
So even when you give them a solution, and that's why this is coming back to bite them, because I attended that meeting, part of that KZN Growth Coalition.
Yeah.
I attended that.
Well,
so,
you're the vice chairman of the South Coast Growth Coalition, aren't you?
Growth Coalition, yeah. That's also faded because it's not rewarding. I mean, there's no pay. There's no pay for it.
It's a volunteer thing.
They want you to give them ideas, local economic development, socio-economic growth and development, and also spatial development. The municipalities have come to rely on the business chambers and captains of industry and people in business to give them ideas.
Yeah.
But they won't fund you, not if you're in a minority group. No.
And you're also obviously founder and chairman of the Ark of Compassion and the Christian Bank of South Africa. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, the Christian Bank, it came to me and I thought to myself, well, why is it that the church has never got themselves organized? Why can't we have a bank? Why can't you have a monetary system? Why can't you have something which funds the poor?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's four pillars of every church. The one is you've got your elders, and they are there for wisdom and church discipline. And then you've got your deacons who are there to establish your poverty ministries. Then you've got your pastor who preaches the revealed word of God. And then you've got teachers, and they teach the revealed word of God. But the church has not done what is expected. And like I said earlier, certainly not feeding the poor or taking care of the homeless.
Well,
And that's where the responsibility has to lie, Scott, and that's what we're going to do now, especially with the Khoisan.
yeah. Well, look, I having mentioned the Khoisan, I'm going to actually bring up that. This is in the PDFs linked below this video. You can actually look at these documents. Okay, so
I'll see it.
This is Khoisan Action, Moriah Worship Center, appointment official letter, Dr. Peter Munns, and this is as the ambassador for the Khoisan people in South Africa. That's amazing. Look, I wrote the book about the Griqua, whose heritage is from the Khoisan, and they're a beautiful people.
Yes, they are, Scott. But there's 5. You see, there's 5 kingly priests. And even the Bible, in terms of a biblical timeline, Daniel and Revelations. I mean, look what the chaos in the Ukraine and Russia.
Yeah.
Look what's happening in Israel. So it's time. It's time that these kings and princes of the South, this nation, this peculiar nation, they've got the jurisdiction, they've got the cultural heritage, and it's such a privilege and an honor to have this appointment, you know, Scott.
Now you had a meeting.
You can't make this up.
Yeah.
You can't make this up.
You had a gathering in September, I think mid-September, and
yes.
Yeah, look, unfortunately no one came forth with any video clips of what actually happened. Otherwise, we would have definitely put them up. But
no, Scott.
So okay, so we've got the 5 kingdoms: the Khoi, the San, the Griqua, the Karana, and the Nama. And
yes.
The one that's very interesting there is the Griqua, because they are very much a multiracial community, whereas the Khoi and the San tend to be, very, very strongly Khoi and San, as are the Karana and the Nama. Do you know Alan Lafleur?
Yes. Yes.
Do you have contact? Do you have contact with Alan?
He was in KZN, and Adam Koch as well.
Yes.
That's where they got Kokstad in the Eastern Cape,
yes.
on the Transkei.
Yes.
So my mandate as well is to interact with the Khoisan leaders, and one of them is actually establishing the embassy, which is exciting, because now we've got a voice. We've got a voice of truth, reason, wisdom. And we're heading for exciting times, Scott.
Absolutely.
Biblically, and also right in the middle. I mean, look what's happening with the Zulu Kingdom.
Yeah.
We're going back to Shaka and Dingaan's days, where brothers are killing brothers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's move on to this document, Peter. This is TP Lutuli Attorneys. And,
yes.
Okay, this is the lockdown. This is obviously to do with the COVID era, is it?
100%. We were the first out of the gate, before any political party, before any church leader, or before anyone, Scott. I went to a lawyer, the same lawyer actually, who just is the ARC. So, I just had it on my heart. I wanted to know the urgent demand to end the lockdown.
Yeah.
It didn't make sense. I mean, to a person who's got just half a brain cell, you don't go and get yourself vaccinated. You don't, it's your integrity. You don't start putting strange things like Mordazolam and Remdesivir and morphine into your system.
Yeah. Yeah.
Against your will. But they declared war. That was a declaration of war by the ANC, SACP, COSATU alliance.
Right.
Military lockdowns. Where do you declare war? They arrested over 400,000 people. So that document is current, Scott.
Yeah.
These people have to pay for that.
And just
they're
again,
going to pay. Parliament to 400.
Just again, for people listening, this document is available in the link down below the video. This is one of the PDFs you can pull up. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but You know, your involvement in all these areas is quite extraordinary. I'm going to go to CAPS. Let's have a talk about CAPS, as National Peace Commission. Now, that is your big project at the moment, isn't it?
Correct. Yes.
Now, how did that start, Peter?
Well, I think with the military background, Scott, it was organic. It just grew. You know what I mean? It just seemed to evolve.
Yeah.
Just like I started car watch and car guard, I also realized that you need militia. It's biblical. I can give you the biblical references.
Right.
You look what happened during the Free Zuma campaign. The only people who protected the community at that time was the private security industry and the people living in the community themselves. Expats, SADF, ex-SADF, ex-SAPS. They rose to the occasion because this government was busy training people for the DRC in Matatiel. So what we had to do was to stretch the muscles in our head and say, what do we do if the government, if the police and the defense force and the metro police can't protect the economy or people? So I designed the CAPS, Community Assistance and Protection Services.
Right.
And I love the chameleon because the African people don't like them or snakes. They're quite super.
Oh, look, I can tell you a story about chameleons.
So I think yeah.
I grew up in Iringa. Iringa's a little town in the southern highlands of Tanzania, and
Yes.
the Africans in that area believe that chameleons are evil, and they are absolutely petrified of them. And as a 5-year-old, I had a pet chameleon. I used to put it on my shoulder, and I would walk into the markets in Iringa, which would be on a Saturday chockers. I mean, you couldn't move. But when I walked in, this little white 5-year-old with a chameleon on his shoulder, the crowds it was like partying of the waters. You know, you could walk anywhere. They were petrified of that little chameleon. Now, okay, I've got another document up here, which is the National Peace Commission CADESA 2023, the SADC protocol, the Hammer of Judgment. Take us through what this is all about.
Scott, in 1990, a Congress of 260 people made up of the ANC and the SACP and COSATU alliance, they demanded a conference for democracy from the previous government. It was funded by the Department of Justice. It was funded by the Overseas African Union, Organization of African Unity. It was funded by the United Nations, and it was obviously endorsed by the World Economic Forum and the United Nations. So they were sellout. They were sellout.
Yeah.
And they orchestrated it. So the CADESA, Conference for Democracy, that's how it was a bargaining council to establish an interim government with 18 political parties, and they agreed to share the 400 seats in parliament, and that's what they did. So what am I doing? We're going to repeat it. We're going to do exactly what they did to the previous government. They got no defense against it.
Yeah.
Nothing. We are demanding, I'm not interested in a referendum. We're establishing a Congress of the people, and we want a conference for democracy, biblical democracy. We've got Babylonian, barbarian, African democracy at the moment, for blacks in particular and Africans in general. They make it clear that is their policies, this government. They make no bones about their persecution or discrimination against minority groups. So the hammer of judgment, it's Exodus 28, 1 to 43. We need this entire parliament, Scott. What have they done? They've either endorsed COVID-19, corruption, abortion, and everything with it. There's not one single political party, not even the ACDP, that has opposed this evil or exposed it. So we don't need, there's only 400 people. 400 people and 65 that controls 65 million people. I like the odds.
Yeah.
And people are baying for blood. They want justice.
Well,
So what I've done is I've provided, a museum of truth and a library of evidence.
yeah.
And I attended a meeting at the Maharani in the Elangeni Hotel 2 months before they closed. That was a COVID-19 meeting, Scott. But I was there. Isn't it amazing? And I think that is the mystery of my life.
Yeah.
Is that I happened to be in the right place. It's serendipity.
Well,
I happened to be at the right place at the right time.
You have so many different interests, and you've had such a huge impact on South Africa in the background. I mean, people don't realize how much you've done that's impacted the South Africa we have today in a positive light. And, I just have to say, Peter, I just absolutely admire your energy. I mean, you're no longer a 20-year-old. You've got a couple of health issues, and yet, regardless, you are still fighting as if you're in your prime of life. I mean, I just admire you tremendously. Just be aware of that.
Thanks. I just, some people call me a chameleon in a box of Smarties, especially my family, they say I'm all over the place, and I'm not centered, and I'm not focused. I'm totally focused, Scott.
Yeah.
Totally.
Absolutely.
I know what you have to do.
Okay, I'm going to move
we
on.
need the wisdom of age and the energy of youth. That's what we want.
Yes. I'm going to move on to the next one, which is the South Coast Chamber of Commerce and Industry. This tells us a bit about what you did.
Yeah.
Anything you want to add to this?
Not really, Scott.
I'll just
it was just
scroll through it.
We focused on agriculture. We focused on providing solutions for 5 municipalities. But now we want oversight committees to these municipalities, Scott.
Yeah.
That's what we're coming with now.
Yeah.
We're going to be an oversight committee. Just like we demanded to be an oversight committee to the Anti-Corruption Tribunal and the Zondo Commission. This government needs oversight. They can't be trusted.
Absolutely. Now, this one here, the South Coast, okay, this is the Moral Regeneration Movement, combating corruption in the SADC. Tell us about this.
Correct. Very, very appropriate. Very appropriate. In 2000, 14 countries signed a protocol against corruption. Now, what these countries said is that if the courts were compromised, centrally controlled, or corrupt, here was the protocol to establish a second house, a second court. On top of that, Scott, we've also got article section in chapter 2, section 33, 34, 38, and 39. We can establish a tribunal, a hearing, or a court using any law, Aboriginal law, perfect divine law, like I did. I went into the court and I sat before that judge and I confronted him with Deuteronomy 19, 15 to 19. And that is demanding an unbiased judge and demanding a fair trial. That's why they took it off the roll and they didn't strike it off the roll. That's why I'm not finished with the city council.
Yeah. Okay.
So we're going to establish an embassy, and with the Khoisan or the First Nation people, Scott, these are the kings of the South. This is where it is.
Okay, I'm going to just keep on going with the National Peace Council, Commission rather.
Yes.
This is to do with
That's our summary of findings.
Yeah, with the contravention of 1998 Poker Act. What happened here?
Well, that was just evidence of racketeering, crimes against society, abuse of power, abuse, human rights abuse, treason. That's the People's Court. We want a People's Court of South Africa that carries the authority of the people, Khoisan, and the other nations. There are 28 settler nations in this country.
Gee,
there are 14 African nations.
I wish I'd been at that gathering in September. I would love to have. Anyway.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be more, Scott. We're planning a very big one for the Congress of the People now, and you'll have first cover.
Fantastic.
You'll cover it. Well, you were with us in Bloemfontein. You interviewed us.
Yeah.
When we declared the court. That was the judiciary. That's the judicial capital, Bloemfontein. It's the appeal court. We don't recognize maritime law. We don't recognize admiralty law. We don't recognize the law of the sea. We're returning to the law of the land.
Absolutely.
Which is God's law, which is common law. And they've got no defense, Scott.
Tell us about this document, Peter.
Well, that's the order of the tribunal. That's our judgment. The tribunal findings. We've had our tribunal.
Yeah.
We found them wanting. Found them wanting.
And just for everybody watching again, if you look below this video, there's a link. You click on that link, you can actually download all these documents. So, you know, it's a incredible look at some of Peter's work. He's an extraordinary man.
I've got so many people to thank, Scott. I couldn't have been, you know, my son, my daughter, you know, had a wonderful family.
Yeah.
And also the people that I've met on this journey, Scott, just too numerous to mention.
Yeah.
You know, but Bishop Raymond Trollope, he's the administrator for the Five Kings. This is a biblical blueprint. We want to be obedient to God's word, but we also want to do what is needed for the country, social, economic, political, health, justice, education. Do the right things for the right time and the right season, Scott.
Yeah.
But we've got the Congress of the People. We've got the United Nations of South Africa. We're working with Freedom Alliance, Dr. Paolo Brogneri. We're working with Michelle Mountain. We're working with Brother Thomas from Jural Assembly. We're working with some very, very good people. But we need leadership. That's what I've waited for. The National Peace Commission was created as a platform, as a gateway, only for leaders that had those leadership qualities that I mentioned earlier: integrity, vision, influence, power, ability to praise other people. They've got a team effort. And also you want people who can say, like I have, my philosophy is this, that a lot more can be achieved if you're not too concerned about who gets the credit.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Absolutely.
That's it. But there's too much of this self-interest. There's too many people, legends in their own minds.
Yeah.
I don't trust one single politician or one political party. The whole lot. Drain the sewer of rats. Drain that den of thieves. Everyone, you know what they're paid, Scott? It's obscene. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Well, they've just given themselves a 10% rise, I think, the ANC ministers. And
But you know what I've got, Scott? It doesn't matter what happens to me now.
Yeah.
You know, because tonight I think it's historic, you know, because I've entrusted you, just like that the evidence against the Durban City Council. Yeah. I needed to get into court on my own. I needed to dump the evidence into their records. And that's what I've done tonight.
Now,
I've given you, because I trust you and I trust what you've done for this country in terms of being a voice of truth, reason, and wisdom. And truth, wisdom, and justice. That's what we want. Yeah. And it's such an honor to be part of this, Scott. And as I say, I can rest with an easy heart tonight because of where we are going, what we are going to do. It's written. It's here. And it's on, and it's in your safekeeping. And it's there for everyone. But come and join us. Don't compete with us. Work with us.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this pernicious parliament and this corrupt cabinet.
Yeah.
Once and for all.
Now,
the
Peter,
ANC did it. It was lawful and legal. Yeah.
Peter,
sorry, I'm going to get
that's okay. People can contact you through this phone number and this email address. Is that correct?
Yeah. I've got 2 telephone numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've listed them, and also I'm on petermunns65@gmail.com.
Right. Okay, and
I
what's it?
welcome it. We are the Congress of the People. We're going to have a conference for democracy. And yeah, we got some wonderful people working with us, Scott.
Right. Now, I've got one final document in here, the National Peace Commission, the final protocol.
Yes.
Tell us about this.
Well, the final protocol, isn't it amazing? I wrote the book, The Final Protocol, The
Yeah.
Truth About South Africa. I was like a monkey with the transistor in those days. I didn't know how to operate a computer. I hand wrote 865 pages in 1990. It took me 3 years, Scott. It cost me to pay people to type it up. That's how bad it was. So I've called this the final protocol. In other words, it's the last thing that we have to do. It is the final protocol. Come out of this Babylonian democracy. This is a message for the churches.
Right.
It's in biblical. So this is the biblical blueprint. We're saying to those business chambers, it's a warning to the church. If you want to know what to do, come on board. We're advocating perpetual peace. We're not advocating perpetual war and lawlessness and violence and corruption. So I think what I've done over the years, Scott, is that I've tried to put together the information which I believe the layman, the lay person, our problem is ignorance or denial, or apathy or ignorance. You know, you can forgive people for their ignorance to a point, but with social media now, there's no excuse. That is Revelations 21:7-8. You're complicit to the crime if you don't do something about it.
Yeah.
And expose the evil. And that's what we're doing. We're exposing the evil. Ephesians 5:11.
Yeah. Now, I just want to pick up a couple of the comments in the side chat, Peter, just so you're familiar, you hear what they're saying.
Thanks, Scott.
Petruza says, yes, this is invaluable info provided by Dr. Munns. Thank you so much. And
It's a pleasure.
Michael says, you are fantastic, Dr. Munns. We need more like you. And Marlena
thank you.
says, what an amazing and fruitful life you lived. Now, Petruza, these documents and PDFs are actually available at the link below this video. Just click on that link, and it'll take you to the Loving Life Forum. And if you just follow logically the links, you'll see all these PDFs there. You can actually download them to your computer.
You're
Now,
welcome to them.
yeah, thanks, Peter. Now, Peter, look, we've been going for nearly 2 hours, so I'm going to have to wrap this up shortly. But look, I just want to say to you, thank you so much for coming on. You know, you are an inspiration. You really are. I'm almost in tears when I look at what you've achieved in your life. It's extraordinary what one man can do. And
it's God's will.
Just be aware that your legacy will never be forgotten.
Thanks.
You know, look, I'm blown away for words. It doesn't happen often, but right now I am. Now,
I love you like a brother, Scott. Honestly,
absolutely. Now,
we're brothers without blood. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Peter,
we're alpha males. Scott. Yeah.
I don't know about it.
You're fighting on the battlefield, and you never give up. That's alpha male.
Yeah, look, I've faced all sorts of challenges, and I'm sure that you know, one of the things that God does is test us, and
no, absolutely,
and that's an important lesson everybody's got to learn. You've
got to be tenacious. You've got to be steadfast. And have a lot of patience. And a prophet is not known in his own village. Mark 6:4. Mark 6:4. A prophet is not known in his own village or his own family. Yeah. I've learned that the hard way.
Now, Peter, I'm going to wrap up this live stream. Is there anything that I've kind of left out that you'd like to talk about before we do so?
All the bases. We want leadership now. We need 400 people, and we need a war chest. An army can't march on an empty stomach. I have funded everything with the help of my family, with the help of friends.
Yeah.
I've never gone out with a begging bowl. Never, ever have I asked for money or made money, turned it into a commercial site. I've done it for nothing. I've done it because I was called to do it. It is a ministry. But now we are calling on the churches and the business chambers. We need that war chest. An army cannot march on an empty stomach. And you certainly can't go into a battle without generals, and you can't go into a battle without having a battle plan. But there's too many people on the wrong battlefield. KZN is the battlefield. It has been since the British arrived in 1820. So we're going to open the door now, Scott. We're going to open the door because we know the history. We know the architect of the New World Order, Cecil John Rhodes. We know the Berlin Conference in 1884. That was to remove the minerals, and that was to put them in the hands of the crown, the British crown. So we're going to be coming on as well, I think on the 30th of October.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of things that need to be exposed. The banks, the banking system, the illegal, this admiralty system, this law of the sea, and this maritime law. But we're going to open it. We're going to start talking about Bernard Glaser, because the people who own the mining rights and the mineral rights and the water rights and the property rights, those are the slave masters. So we know them. We know the enemy. We know what they've done, and we've exposed them. And they can't handle peace. They want perpetual war. They want national democratic revolutions, radical economic transformation, expropriation without pay or compensation. We got their numbers, Scott.
Yeah.
That's what I'm so grateful about. You know, this journey has been wonderful, and it's time now. The churches mustn't have deep pockets and short arms. And we're going to be knocking on the door of the lotto system, and we want to get the poverty done. We want to clean up these squatter camps. We're going to destroy this communist hammer, because that's what they've done. They've used class warfare to divide the people, white monopoly capital, the whites and the blacks, and the Indians and the coloreds. No more, no more. We don't, does it look like I'm going to comply? I think I sent you that.
Yeah.
But Scott, we're going to have we don't want a renaissance. We want a reformation, a peaceful reformation. We're the only ones who are actually calling for peace. That's why we established the Peace Commission. Shanti in Hindu is peace. Islam means peace. Dar es Salaam is the house of peace. Jews greet you in the name of Shalom. And we follow the Prince of Peace, Mark 8:34. Jesus Christ is the Prince of Peace as Christians. But now we need to hold the church accountable, and we need to hold this government accountable, Scott.
I was actually born in Dar es Salaam.
Look at that.
It's a small world. Scott? Yeah, small world. Now, Peter, I have a special request which I totally endorse, and I think everybody watching endorses. Petrusa de Toy says, can Dr. Munn please end with a prayer for us? Yes,
certainly. I'll make it short and sweet because it's gone on for such a long time. But Heavenly Father, we gathered here this evening, and we gathered here to be a voice of truth, reason, and wisdom. We're also gathered here in His precious name. We carry the authority of Jesus Christ and Almighty God. And we will bring this hammer of judgment and the sword of justice. And we will always be a voice of truth, reason, and wisdom. And I say the serenity prayer, because we pray for the serenity to accept the things that we cannot change. We pray for the courage to change the things that we can. And we pray for the wisdom to know the difference. Scott, I love you guys and Loving Life family. Thank you very, very much for this wonderful interview. And I thank you so much, Scott, for what you've done. You've been a great ambassador and a true patriot for South Africa. We're going to mobilize the expats.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a wake-up call, Scott. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Peter, I just want to say that it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And yeah, I look forward to our live stream on the 30th. I think we've got John Dyson joining us then as well.
Yes.
And
It'll be our opener.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It certainly will be. And look, yeah, look, I'm going to go out with, what's it, Ons vir jou Suid-Afrika, which is a beautiful variation of the national anthem of South Africa. And
it is wonderful.
Yeah, I'm at a loss for words again. But look, it's been an amazing journey that you've had, and clearly God has had his hand on your shoulder all along, and you know, your legacy will live forever. There's no question about that.
Thank you, Scott. Thanks very much for watching, and thank all the viewers, and have a blessed evening and a blessed life. Thank you.
Take care, Peter. See you on the 30th.
See you there, Scott.
Okay. Bye for now.
Look forward to it. Bye-bye.
All right, guys. That was Dr. Peter Munns, and you can see why he's a Loving Life channel hero. What a remarkable man. Thanks to the mods for keeping an eye on the side chat for me. This live stream will be put up on, obviously, lovinglifetv.com, and please share the link. And if you want the PDFs, they are below this video. Just take the link to the Loving Life forum. Thanks, Nat, for setting that up for us. And you'll be able to download all the documents that Peter has supplied us. All right, I'm going to go out now with Ons vir jou Suid-Afrika. Have a great evening, everybody. Bye for now.
Uit die blou van ons hemel, uit die diepte van ons see, hoor ons ver verlate vlaktes waar die kranse antwoord gee. Ons sal antwoord op jou roepstem, ons sal offer wat jy vraag. Ons sal lewe, ons sal sterwe, ons vir jou Suid-Afrika. Ek wil antwoord op jou roepstem, maar nie offer wat jy vraag. Das bloed op die plase van boere wat hulp vraag. S'nags hoor jy die sirenes, maar jy kyk ander pad. Niks daarvan op TV, net soms in die koerant. Das kieme in die water, Eskom gee beerdkrag. Rioolstank in die strate, das oorlog wat wag. Gery maar op ons paaie, mense maak net wat hulle wil. Arm blankes in kampe, maar jy bly liever stil. Studente gooi met klippe, en skole lê plat gevee.